All right. Hi, friends. This video is going to be broke up into two sections. I will be covering all missed coding concepts on the week 1 coding exam. I'm going to break it down into questions 1 through 10, and then part 2 will be questions 11 through 20. All right, so let's start off with question number 1. Ultrasound bone density measurement and interpretation, peripheral sites, any method. Okay. So asking yourself what was done and what anatomic site. We've got an ultrasound and they're testing bone density. All right. So now I'm going to go into my index. Okay. And I want to start with the service itself, the procedure, identifying it as an ultrasound. That's going to bring me over to page inside of your index. You're going to want to go to the keyword of ultrasound, okay? And then you will start to look for bone or bone density measurement. You'll find that on the left-hand column. Fortunately, there's only one code there to choose from, and that is 76977. So at this point, you would take it back over to your tabular section. And you'll find your code 76977 ultrasound bone density measurement. And then this is the particular keywords that we were unable to find from our index, which was the peripheral sites. So you can see here, peripheral site or sites, any method. All right, up next is radiologic examination, nasal bones, complete, minimum 3 views. So you've got several different details here. The term complete and detailing a minimum of 3 views. All right, so anatomic site, nasal bone, action, x-ray, and then we'll take it from there. So starting in your index, you can go over to X-ray, and then start looking for your anatomic site. There's my nasal bone right there, and it's fortunately again just got one code listed next to it, which always makes it a little bit easier. 70160, and then you're going to take this back over to your tabular section. And there is where we'll find the rest of the information that we need. So 70160, radiologic examination, nasal bones complete, and then our detail of minimum of 3 views. All right. Next up, we've got a rib x-ray, 2 views, unilateral. So again, asking yourself what the service or action is and anatomic site. So anatomic site is going to be the ribs. Action is x-ray. All right, once I get back over to my x-ray section, everything's alphabetical and I just start looking for my anatomic site. There's my ribs. Now this time we've got some codes that we have to investigate, right? It's giving us what's called a range of codes. So we got to figure out which one of those codes is the appropriate choice for us. Now, I always tell my students, when you're looking in your index, right, you're trying to capture as many keywords as possible. So what you can't capture from your index, you want to be able to capture and identify in your tabular section. So what have we captured so far? X-ray and rib, right? So what have we not captured? 2 views and the term unilateral. Okay, so unilateral means one side. So that's the 2 pieces of information that I'm looking for when I get over to my tabular section, starting with code 71100. So that's what I'm always doing. Anytime that I see a range of codes, I'm asking myself, okay, what have I captured keywords? What as regarding what's been provided to me, and what have I not captured? What do I still need to find? So now, once I get over to my tabular section, I can see the first code listed, 71100, captures everything that we need. There's your term of unilateral, there's anatomic site, unilateral, and the detail of two views. So also when you're looking at a range of codes from your index, I'm always asking myself the curious question: what makes each one of these codes unique, right? What is going to be the one word, or sometimes it's quantity. So in this example, you can see that the variation, the other code that was inside that range, is still a examination of the ribs, but it includes the posterior anterior chest, and it has a detail of minimum 3 views. You'll also see that there's a radiologic exam ribs, but detailed bilateral 3 views, right? So same base service, but then you get into what makes what I call the devils in the details, right? Bilateral, unilateral, posterior, anterior, etc. All right, up next, we've got a renal venography. Let's see here. It is unilateral, selective, supervision, and interpretation. All right, so action, venography, location, anatomic location, renal. Okay, so renal is also your kidneys. And then we'll look for those additional details, unilateral, selective, and capture those finer details. Starting with just looking up the action. So you can go to venography for this, right? Because that is your service. All right. Once I get to venography, then I'm going to start to look for anatomic site. There's my renal. And here we go. We got a range of codes we have to choose from, 75831 through 75833. So now my question is, what have I not captured? And what is going to make each one of these codes unique once I get over my tabular section? So what have I not captured? Unilateral, selective, supervision, interpretation. Okay. So now I know what I'm looking for in those codes that have been provided to me in the tabular section. So now I'm going to head over. Uh, Quick little tip here, just to make it easier to skim through your pages. The corners of each page is going to give you the range of codes that are listed on that particular page. Okay, so like for example, this particular page covers 75894 through 75958. Okay, so we're getting close. So if you look on the corner of this page, we've got 75822 through 75893. Awesome. So that's going to put us where we need to be. So 78531, okay. Venography, renal, check, check. All right, there's our word unilateral, there's our term selective, and then you've got your supervision and interpretation. So what was the difference between those codes that were supplied from our index? Well, if you notice 75833 is bilateral selective radiological. So again, everything looks right up until you get to these little, like again, these are your finer details. Unilateral, which would be one side, versus bilateral, which would be both sides. All right, up next, let's see here. We've got a bilateral diagnostic mammography for a patient whose previous screening mammogram showed areas of suspicious infiltrate. All right, so a little bit of fluff here, but they're also, you would not have a diagnostic service or like a mammogram unless something showed up as suspicious on the screening, right? So diagnostic is if something was to show up suspicious or unusual, then you would go in for a diagnostic service to determine what that suspicious area or mass is. So what are we coding for? We're coding for the diagnostic mammogram. What type? Bilateral. Okay, so head on over to mammogram, right? That is the service that was provided. Once you get over there to mammogram, you're going to look through these and you don't see one that actually specifies for diagnostic. There's with computer aided detection, localization, there's your screening, but I don't see the keyword diagnostic. So general rule of thumb is you just start with your default code, or excuse me, your default index entry code, so mammogram, and then you just have to look through this range of codes, right? Because there isn't one that's specifying diagnostic from the index. Okay, sometimes that happens. It's all good, right? Just start with that initial range and then take it from there. So that range of codes is 77065 through 77067. So again, what have we not captured from our index? Bilateral and diagnostic, right? So that's the keywords that I'm looking for when I get over to my tabular section. All right, there we go. So here's our range of codes, starting with that 77065. Diagnostic, all right, check, check. Mammography, okay, yes. Including computed aided detection when performed? No, we don't have those details, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. It says when performed. So that means that the computer aided detection does not have to be performed. But if it is, okay, you would still use this code. Now, the detail for us, and I've marked it with a little bit of red pen here, is that little semicolon, okay? That semicolon is where the base procedure stops, okay, and the variation of that service begins. So anything after your semicolon is a variation of, and in this example, a diagnostic mammography, okay? But now we got to look for those details. We need, so we've covered diagnostic, check. We've covered mammogram, excellent. Now what do we got to find? Well, this was both breast, right? So we got to find a code, a variation of this service that describes a bilateral diagnostic mammogram. And there we go. So now you've got 77066, which as you can see here, is just one word. So what is it associated to? It's associated to the service listed above, right? It is a variation of this service. I like to think about it like a parent-child relationship. So up to the semicolon is the parent, right? And then the relationship is 77066, right? This is kind of like the child, right? It's got a little connection to this base code or the parent code. All right, so again, what you can't capture from your index, that's what you're looking for keywords when you get over to the tabular section. All right, let's look at the next one. We've got cerebrospinal fluid leak. Cerebrospinal fluid leakage detection, excuse me, and localization. Okay, so the action is leakage detection and localization of cerebrospinal fluid. All right, so your nervous system, right? So cerebro, that is your brain. So cerebrospinal fluid, right? That has to do with your nervous system and cerebrospinal fluids. Let's see here. So I'm going to take this over. I'm going to go to, if I went to leakage detection, I'm really not sure what I would find. We could look it up really quick. I think by just going to the anatomic site is going to be a lot easier for us, but I'm going to just check it out real quick. Nothing wrong with that. And I don't see anything that represents leakage. Okay, perfect. That's what I expected. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to look under cerebrospinal fluid. That's the best place to start with this one. There we go. All right. So once I get over to cerebrospinal fluid, then I start looking for those additional keywords. And that's where you're going to find leakage detection and localization, 78650. So this one, we couldn't look by the action. We had to look at the substance or anatomic site, which was cerebrospinal fluid, and then take it from there. What types of things can be done to cerebrospinal fluid? All right. So now 78650, just to follow it through. And another thing I wanted to point out to you, right, is also how the radiology section in your CPT book, it breaks things down by body system. So here we are, right? So we're in the nervous system. Excellent. And then you'll find 78650, cerebrospinal fluid leakage detection and localization. Also, just as a little FYI, this is called a parenthetical note, okay? So this parenthetical note is associated to this procedure code. So they're basically, the book is talking to you. So it's saying, hey, if they did an injection procedure and not just a fluid leakage detection and localization, then you need to go over and look at a different range of codes. If that doesn't apply to you and they didn't do an injection procedure, move past it, right? But I do recommend always reviewing those additional parenthetical notes for more instruction. Don't overlook those. All right, let's see here. What's up next? Supervision and interpretation of a hysterosalpingography. All right, let's break this down. Maybe we don't know what a hysterosalpingography is. So hystero, that's going to be your uterus, okay, or the uterus. Salpingo, those are the fallopian tubes. So just medical terminology here. Salpingo is your tubes. Hystero is the uterus. All right, so I think the best thing to do is just go right over to that term, hysterosalpingo. All right, let's see here. Nice. All right, so I found my hysterosalpingography, and lucky us, right? The default code, which is the one that's directly connected to the main term, is 74740. Now you also notice under hysterosalpingography, there were some other services, but also pay attention to the code, the first number that represents those codes. So your sevens, right? That's your radiology services, right? These codes that are in the 50,000 range, those are going to come from the female genital reproductive section inside of your CPT manual. Those services are going to be invasive services, injections, catheterizations, etc. So you'll get familiar with your book too just by reviewing the codes by that first number listed in the code range. So we're going to stick with our 74740. Take it over to your tabular section. Notice also, again, just pay attention to the subsection that you're in. So we're in diagnostic radiology, excellent, diagnostic imaging, subsection gynecological and obstetrical, and then you'll find your hysterosalpingography, radiologic supervision interpretation. And again, here we go with the parenthetical notes. It says, hey, for introduction of saline or contrast for a hysterosalpingography, C58340. So again, if that happened to be applicable to you and your coding scenario, and it included the introduction of saline or contrast material, then your book is guiding you, saying, go check out and use this code as well, right? But again, only code for what is being documented. Okay, so for us, it's just supervision and interpretation. It's not the introduction of the saline for that service. So supervision and interpretation would be the interpretation of that image that is recorded. Okay. All right, let's see what's next here. Urography, retrograde with cub. Okay, so cub stands for kidney, ureters, bladder. Urography, okay, retrograde. So urography is our service, right? Our procedure. The type is retrograde, and it's basically just telling you that it includes the kidneys, ureters, and bladder. All right. So let's go over, right? Let's go into our index here. Almost there. Come on now. QRS. Almost there. There you go. Okay. So into our U's. And then I'm going to start looking for, what do I have? Urography. Okay. Here we go. Perfect. Urography. And then I start looking for my type, retrograde, and then you'll find yourself at 74420. Again, lucky us, right? Only one code to choose from. So now I'm just going to take it over to my tabular section. I love it when I turn right to it. Awesome. And then you'll find, and again, paying attention to those subsections. So we're in the urinary tract, and then urography, retrograde, and look at this detail, with or without kidney, ureters, and bladder. So basically they're telling you again, if they included it, awesome, right? This is your code. And if they didn't also view the kidney, ureters, and bladder, that's fine too. It's with or without it. Just pay attention to the retrograde part because that is what makes it unique. So 74420. All right, up next, we're getting into real far. So with this one, you want to start with the liver, the anatomic site, and then look for a service that includes imaging or something that mentions vascular flow. So now I'm going to go, this time I'm going to go into my index and I'm going to go over to liver. Awesome. All right, here I am. And from liver, then I'm going to start looking for those key words, vascular flow imaging. And that brings me down to the lower left corner here, and you can see indented under nuclear medicine, you've got your imaging and you've got your vascular flow. So this one's good, this one's great, right? So probably this one is going to include imaging. As you can see here in imaging, 78201 through 78216. So they're already telling you that imaging is included in all of these codes within this range. And 78202 fits in that range. So again, imaging is going to be in all of these. Vascular flow is just going to be in 78202 is basically what the book is is laying out to you. So now I'm going to head over to my tabular section here just to verify that code. And you are in your gastrointestinal system. So your liver is an accessory organ in your gastrointestinal system. That's why it's listed here. And then your 78201, let's pay attention here, liver imaging, and then you stop at that semicolon, right? Because we don't want static only. That's a variation of the liver image. We want with vascular flow. So you can see here, imaging is captured in the 78201, and then with vascular flow, 78202. And then again, it gives you another parenthetical note. Always read these. So it's just talking to you. It's saying, hey, if they only did the spleen, then go look at this other code. That doesn't apply to us now, but again, future reference, pay attention to those parenthetical notes. All right, last code for this video, unlisted ultrasound procedure. Okay, you could go one of two ways. You could go into your index and go to ultrasound and look for unlisted, but the cool thing is on the same page as ultrasounds, you also have a whole section for unlisted procedures or services. So if I went ultrasound as my keyword, okay, then I would just follow it till I got to unlisted services and procedures, 76999, or I could take it to unlisted services, everything's listed alphabetically, until I found ultrasound. Okay, and again, you come up with the exact same code. This looks fuzzy. Let me see if I can get it to zoom in a little bit here. Come on. Let me see if I can turn this on and off. It'll fix that. There it goes. Okay, much better. All right, so unlisted procedure 76999. And then again, take it over to your tabular section. And the general rule of thumb is that if it's an unlisted service, it will always be listed at the end of any category. Okay, if there is an unlisted service that is associated to that particular category. Okay, and there you go. Unlisted ultrasound procedure, could be diagnostic, interventional, etc. All right, so that's it for the first 10 codes on your Chapter 1 quiz, Coding Concepts. I will see you in part 2.